We love our optics from Element. We've worked with the Theos. This time we're going to take the Nexus Gen 2 4-25 by 50. We're going to get it mounted on a rifle. We're going to put it on our optics test rig. We're going to talk about impressions, usability, features, specs, feeds and speeds, and more. Hey guys, Gavin here from ultimatereloader.com. We got a lot to cover in this video, so I'm going to waste no time getting this Nexus Gen 2 out of the box. Okay, so here's what comes in the box. First of all, there's the box itself. Look at this really nice high density foam. Everything was very securely packaged in the box, so you know you're going to get your scope in good condition. Scope itself. This looks like typical Element quality. We've got a nice smooth zoom ring. We've got the throw lever on the magnification ring. We can also use this tiny little screw. We remove it to cap that off. We've got a capped windage, and we can use this thread protector if we want to run windage exposed. A lot of familiar features that we got used to with the Theos. So 30mm tube, nice slim construction. Is going to work great on the Bergara rifle that we're going to put it on. We've got a neoprene cover, a step down aperture ring. I love this. This is what it's all about, an included sunshade, because guess what? We use a sunshade just about every time we go shooting. We're shooting into the sun quite a bit. It helps tremendously. We've got the Allen key for adjustments, and we've got this little cleaning pouch. We can use that to clean the lenses, and then we can pack it up out of the way when we're done. And it's got a carabiner if we want to clip it on. That's what's included with the Nexus Gen 2 4-25 by 50. Next, I'm going to go find a rifle to put this on, and we're going to shoot with it. Okay, so here's the complete rifle package. The rifle that I chose to pair up with this scope is the all-new Bergara Wilderness Sierra, and this one is chambered in .308 Winchester. And it's got some things that are really notable, right? Right hovering around that $1,000 MSRP price point. It's got a nice sniper gray Cerakoted barreled action. It's got the fluted barrel with 5/8-24 muzzle threading. It's got a hinged floor plate that uses the M5 bottom metal cut, right? So what I did during this story was I swapped it out for an M5 bottom metal with detachable box magazine configuration. Very smooth and seamless. It's got the adjustable cheek riser and included length of pole spacers. So, you know, this is just a really, really great hunting package. And a lot of you might be saying, whoa, that's a bit more scope than I would use on a relatively lightweight, compact, and nimble hunting rifle like that. Well, the reason I went with this scope is, you know, when I'm shooting long range, like we shot this out to 660 yards, I don't want to give up any magnification features and functionality. So what will probably happen with this scope is we will also use it on more of a long range target shooting type application. But it is lighter than the Theos, and I would totally hunt with this scope. I would rather hunt with a heavier scope that has all of the tactical features and the magnification that I'm used to, rather than giving up any of that. That's just my own personal preference. Okay, and the rings that we use are these Hawkins Precision featherweight rings. As you can see, you don't need a rail. It mounts right to the action. So it's kind of a mount and rings all in one. And I was able to get these in 30mm, and I believe this is the low height here. So as you can see, I've got just enough clearance for the objective. Stepping up to medium would also be a really good option. It's just really a matter of personal preference. Okay, so let's talk about features. This Nexus Gen 2 has a 30mm tube, and that helps keep the weight down just a little bit, and it also gives you a lot of really great options for rings and mounts. It's got an illuminated first focal plane reticle. We'll talk more about the reticle in just a minute, but the way this works is there's a button on the side of the scope. If you press it momentarily, you'll ratchet through the different illumination brightness settings, and then a long press will turn it off, right? So you can toggle between on and off at the same brightness level and not have to cycle through a bunch of different brightness settings. It's got multi-coated lenses with an anti-fouling layer, all of those super high quality Japanese optics features that you would expect. One of my favorite things about not only the Nexus Gen 2, but also the Theos is the tool-free turrets. All you have to do is take this thumb screw on the top off, and then you can take your cap off, set it down, and when you do that, it does two things. It sets your zero, and it also sets your zero stop, which is awesome. The windage works in a very similar way, right? Except you're just setting your zero. There's obviously no zero stop for the windage, right? That kind of tool-free design is real valuable to me because we're always on the go. You might be going hunting or target shooting, need to confirm zero, change your zero. No need to find the correct Allen key or your toolkit or anything like that. So that is really, really awesome. And if you want to run it exposed, it comes with that thread protector for the windage cap threads, which is super awesome. So there's also a revolution indicator, which is definitely handy when you're doing long range shooting. Also, it's got the removable throw lever, right? Really smooth magnification ring here. And the throw lever just provides a greater level of ease when you're behind the rifle. You don't want to break your position. You can adjust your magnification and not torque the rifle. I do not like magnification rings that are excessively stiff. So let's talk reticles. The scope is available with MOA or MIL. I've got MIL, and in each of those two different units, it's available with or without the Christmas tree at the bottom. So I've got the APR2D MRAD. If it was APR1C MRAD, it wouldn't include the windage lines at the bottom. And I do prefer a Christmas tree of some sort because it's nice to be able to hold for both windage and elevation. And so the illumination option, again, is a great feature when you're shooting in dark conditions or you just need that extra bit of visibility with your reticle. So when it comes to sight-in, I've got a system that I prefer, right? I've got a tool for using a bore-mounted bore sighting optical setup, but what I find to work the best is to look down the bore and hold the rifle real steady, look through the scope, and then just keep adjusting the elevation and windage turrets until what you see through the bore is what you see through the scope. That usually will get me within 2 inches, 4 inches, at least onto an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So I went through that process with some factory Hornady 168 grain tap ammunition. I used my tool-free elevation and windage adjustments, put the turrets back on at zero, boom, was ready to go. So that was awesome. And I also shot some hand loads that we put together with 175 grain SMK bullets. After getting on paper at 100 yards, we did a little bit of shooting at the industrial yard. This was our chance to shoot offhand at targets that are relatively close in range and shoot with a lower magnification setting. And everything felt like it was easy to get on target. Things tracked well, no problem hitting the targets at all. And the rifle bounced really well for offhand shooting, which was great. At the ridge line, I used kind of our tactical repeater configuration, for lack of better words. We ran the suppressor, we ran the detachable bottom metal, and a 10-round magazine. And we started at 335 yards. We were shooting our 175 SMK hand loads, and then we stretched out to 660 yards. My impression, it felt a lot like I was looking through and using the Theos scope. The Theos has become kind of an instant favorite for our team. Anybody that's been behind it has really liked the blend of great optical quality, great user interface. And when I'm shooting the Nexus Gen 2, I feel a lot like I'm behind the Theos, right? It's got a slightly smaller tube. The Theos's quality level is perhaps one notch higher, but this thing is right behind it. And I'll have to say, I'm definitely a fan. All right, after we were done with our fun shooting, it was time to take this scope and put it through our lab tests. Here at Ultimate Reloader, we have a unique optics test rig that I personally designed and put together. The goal is a stable setup, to have a camera behind the scope. We can move the camera as little as a 0.5 of an inch when we need to. And one of the tests we do that with is parallax. So this is a really, really great setup so that we can do apples to apples comparisons of different optics. Starting with tracking. This is where we go up 3 mils, down 3 mils, left 3 mils, and right 3 mils, and we come back to the center each time. Just like the Theos, this thing tracked perfect. Literally, the Theos and this Nexus Gen 2 are probably the best two scopes that we've had results with on the optics test rig with regard to tracking. Everything went to where it needed to go to, and everything came back to zero perfectly. Okay, then the parallax test. Now this is where we start with the camera centered looking down the scope. We move it to the left 50 thousandths of an inch, back to zero, and then to the right 50 thousandths of an inch. What you can see here is we had very little shift. On the graphic labeled right 50 thousandths of an inch, there is the slightest movement to the right in terms of point of aim. Other than that, everything was absolutely consistent, which is exactly what you want. And this was with the scope at the 100-yard indicated setting for parallax. Okay, the next test was reticle alignment. And the process for this is relatively straightforward. I take a precision level, I level the target, and then with that same level, I level the camera. And then I level the scope. The scope body, the bottom surface here that's flat with the parallel sticking out with the precision level, is how that's accomplished. That's the most accurate way to establish what is the baseline level setting for a particular scope. As you can see here, everything is absolutely in perfect alignment. We've got perfect horizontal and perfect vertical alignment with regard to the reticle and the test target. That's a perfect result. Okay, with this same setup, we can also test reticle scale. A first focal plane scope will magnify the reticle as it magnifies the image. So the reticle should always be accurate. And while we've got it at 100 yards, we can see here that we've got very close alignment. Along the vertical axis, there was very slightly larger reticle dimensions with respect to what's on the target. And for windage, the same, but it was so close to being perfect that I would call this result excellent. And then, again with the same setup, we've got image distortion. And this test is very, very simple. We take a screen capture of the video file, we draw a perfect rectangle with a slight gap all the way around the frame, and we're looking for like pin cushion and barrel distortion effects or any kind of skewing or anything like that. As you can see here, the sort of gap between the target perimeter and the red box is very consistent and straight all the way around. Again, perfection. So now we've got two Element optics that are going to be preferred platforms for long-range shooting, the Theos and the Nexus Gen 2. So let's talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. We liked the optics quality, the tool-free zeroing, the reticle design, the included sunshade. This is just an absolute must. We're shooting into the sun all the time. In fact, our mid-mount range at 100 yards in the morning always has sun shooting right in your face. And using a sunshade is a great way to mitigate those effects. The smooth mag ring, the included throw lever, the fact that it's made in Japan, all those things, just like with the Theos, are huge pluses, right? This has also got a more attractive price point, and 30 millimeters can give you a little bit lighter weight and a bit of more versatility as well with regard to rings and scope mounts. Okay, what I didn't like, kind of one of the same points as with the Theos. The zero stop goes beyond zero and it goes under, right? You can very clearly see it. And in talking with the Element Optics team, that is by design. For me, it's more something that I just have to get used to. There are reasons that shooters want to go below zero. In rimfire competition was one of the scenarios that was brought up. And I totally understand that. So again, this is a total nitpick, and it's a very, very minor thing. Lots of really good attributes with this scope. What I'd like to know from you is, what do you think about the Nexus Gen 2? Have you had your hands on one of these scopes? Do you own one of these scopes? If so, what do you think about it? What are you using it for? Are you using it for hunting, for target shooting, for general long range kind of stuff? Tell me about what you're doing with it and how you like it. Let's start a discussion in the comments section. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. If you're interested in custom rifles like what we build here on the channel or gunsmithing services, you're going to want to go to rifles.ultimatereloader.com and get on the wait list. If you want to learn lucrative gunsmithing like what I show here on the channel, including building custom rifles and Cerakote plus a whole bunch more, you're going to want to check out the Colorado School of Trades, schooloftrades.edu. Thanks again for watching.